Taiwan, the battleground between communism and democracy. A country battling for its existence against the strength of China. For almost a year now, they've defended and attacked with just with 500,000 casualties, civilian and military. But for the first time in months, not much has happened, due to the winter settling in. But in Russia, meanwhile, a different battleground is being fought between the diplomats of China and the United States, with Taiwan not being involved, bizarrely enough. The first conference trying to negotiate a treaty is being held, with both Biden and Xi being there. Russia is the intermediary. Welcome to episode 16, The Battle for Peace, June 12th to August 12th, 2023. Both sides. So before we get into this episode, let's explain how both sides have got around the negotiating table on July 28th. This is explainable by events of the war so far. The main reason for the US is their economy is going down the bin, as is NATO's. Chinese products had dominated US imports before the war, with a similar scenario in NATO. When China declared war on Taiwan, America declared war on China, and so China stopped exporting to the USA and Europe. Prices shot up to never seen before heights. China, though, had lost in Colombia. The constant patrols of the US Air Force had stopped them exporting stuff, also bringing their economy to the knees. Xi was under pressure to get peace from businessmen and also to reopen the markets. So when newly elected Russian President Alexei Navalny offered peace negotiations in Moscow, or at least a ceasefire chance, both sides jumped at the chance. Xi was joined by Kim Jong-un and a series of diplomats. Biden was joined by Kamala Harris. Also there, though, was the exiled Dalai Lama, Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, and Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the UK. Also there as intermediaries, of course, was Navalny, and also, though, was Alexei Zelensky, the President of Ukraine. Xi offered peace. He would reorganize Taiwan as a country, but only if Colombia was restored to its pre-war border, and if North Korea, or Korea, kept South Korea. Exports would be reopened, but the US would compensate trade lost during the war. China would do the same. The US agreed all the terms, but said they couldn't restore the Colombian border. Instead, Biden offered to hand over Macau, which had been agreed by Portugal. The Chinese knew getting the pre-war borders couldn't happen, so said they would have a ceasefire effective till January 8th, 2024. They would keep all the trade deals already on the table, but would withdraw from Taipei as long as the Americans handed over Korea. Tibet would become semi-autonomous and would have elections to see if they wanted to become independent. Russia would act as an intermediary in this election. Biden accepted this, and both sides left the conference happy. The ceasefire was in effect at 12:18 a.m. the next day, with the American flag being hoisted above Taipei 2 hours later. Just a few notes, if the ceasefire was broken, Russia said it would join the side who didn't break it. Also, the British fleet landed by accident in Hong Kong on the 28th, 2 days after on the 30th, 2 days after this peace treaty was in effect. China fired on the ships, but immediately apologised, thinking the British had broken the treaty and was trying to invade China direct through fleetage. Things, though, were quickly hotting up in Russia and was beginning to spiral towards a civil war between Shoigu and Navalny. Prigozhin, leader of the Wagner group who'd fought for Russia during the Second Russia-Ukrainian war began this by accusing Alexei Navalny of becoming friends with the enemy, e.g. the Ukrainians. He also claimed that the elections had been rigged by the Ukrainians so that Navalny won. Quickly, both Shoigu, now in Mongolia, and Gersimov in Belarus also backed the claims, and on the 8th of August, Shoigu flew into Belarus, where he met up with both Prigozhin and Gersimov. Gersimov had 100,000 troops under his command. Prigozhin had 20,000 very experienced soldiers, while Lukashenko said he would provide 90,000 men if the civil war were to break out. Zelensky sent 4 armies to the border with Russia, preparing to interfere if needed. While NATO backed Navalny but said they wouldn't send aid to either side. On the 11th, a Wagner soldier was killed in Minsk, with Russia blaming an anti-Belarusian group, while Lukashenko, Prigozhin and Shoigu all blamed Russia. On the same day, Chechen guards marched to Belarus, providing another 8,000 men for Prigozhin. Nothing happened on the 12th. So that ends this episode. Thanks for watching. This podcast is looking at harm anyone in the nation mentioned in this podcast, or the people mentioned in this podcast. Any harm mentioned towards any sort of people will be applied. Any people asking for podcasts to be taken down will be taken seriously, and we will have a look at to see whether or not this is a valid reason. If it's a valid reason, we will take the podcast game, but if it's not a valid reason, we will try and block you, and most certainly will take legal action. Only joking on the legal action side of it. Good night.